evening, everybody. It is my pleasure to welcome you all tonight to Parents for Community Living's 33rd Annual General Meeting, and it is wonderful to see all of you in person. It's been so long since we've met together. So as many of you know, I'm Kathy Lovies, the CEO of Parents for Community Living. And just so that you're aware, we are filming tonight's events so that people who were not able to make it tonight will be able to see what went on this evening. At this time, though, I'd like to take a moment of silence to remember Queen Elizabeth II. She was a remarkable woman and leader with an incomparable commitment of service to Britain and the Commonwealth nations. Let's just now take a moment to pause. Thank you. So tonight we will highlight and celebrate the last year that was full of challenges and opportunities. You will have received our annual report, which gives a greater detail than what we're going to be providing tonight. We're just going to do a high-level overview by our chair, Tom Hunter, and members of our senior leadership team this evening. I took over the course of the summer a university course through the First Nations University called 4 Seasons of Reconciliation. And I also am taking right now through the University of Alberta another more in-depth course on the Indigenous history of our country. And as you know, on September the 30th, a week from Friday, will be the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, also known as Orange T-shirt Day. So in an effort to make our land acknowledgement more meaningful and not just reading a statement, I want to share with you the reason behind the Truth and Reconciliation Day. So residential schools, as you know, were boarding schools for Indigenous, First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children and youth, financed by the federal government and run by various Christian religious organizations. Children were separated from their families and communities, sometimes by force, and lived and attended classes at the schools for most of the year. Often the schools were located far from the students' home communities. The schools were in existence for over 100 years, and successive generations of children and families from the same communities endured this experience. Understandably, the impacts were severe. This history was hidden for many years until survivors of the system were able to find the strength and courage to tell their stories. This led to one of the largest class action lawsuits in Canada's history. Though it will take time and commitment to heal the relationship between Indigenous peoples in Canada, the reconciliation process has begun. And so today, we acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people of Canada. So I want to start by saying that this last year was certainly a challenging one for us. And we had unprecedented outbreaks that occurred starting at Christmas of last year. And we managed to get through a year and a half of the pandemic with just one outbreak. But as you know, the latest Omicron, or the variant that occurred over the Christmas holidays, was very contagious, and so many organizations within the region, in fact many people, contracted COVID. I have to really acknowledge our senior leadership team for the work they did during this especially difficult period of time. Sonia, Brenda, Marianne, Terry, Diana, Angela, Robin, and Amber. We couldn't have done it without those staff really working very hard, often many hours overtime. So Certainly, they are a group of staff that deserve significant recognition, so I want to just thank you for that. So I'm truly fortunate to be surrounded by such a talented group of professionals. Of course, our staff teams and the program supervisors that run our group homes as well have done an exceptional job. Again, working long hours, doing extra shifts, and they really supported the folks in our home, and not only just provided an exceptional level of care, but provided them with really great opportunities to interact with each other, with others in the homes through Zoom, and through other activities in the community when we are able to do that. So they really do deserve a lot of credit and recognition as well, so thank you. There continued to be extraordinary collaboration between developmental services agencies, both locally and outside of our region. And I also want to thank the ministry as well for their collaborative efforts to support agencies during those difficult times and as we continue on through this current year. And the Waterloo Regional Health Unit also was instrumental in helping us to navigate these outbreaks as well. So this collaboration really enabled us to better support the people we serve, as well as our staff. So thank you to those groups as well. We had significant growth over the last year, as represented by this space that you get to see today. We celebrated this community hub, our kitchen, and the supported independent living apartments that we have in this building. This is wonderful space, and I'm so glad that you're here to be able to enjoy it. We've moved forward with our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals and objectives coming out of our program logic model that Wilfrid Laurier University helped us to develop. And we've achieved quite a few of our goals and accomplishments, both operationally and in governance. We are also able to accomplish some of our strategic initiatives that is laid out for you in the annual report in more detail. So we're really pleased to be able to move forward with some of those strategic priorities, which I find really aligns well with the ministry's Journey to Belonging, Choice and Inclusion vision for our province. The focus is much more on person-centered and person-directed planning. And this example here at our community hub and with their supported independent living program is a true example of how people can move from group home and into independent living and start to make more additional choices for themselves that they hadn't been able to do before. So this is a really great model that we're very proud of. I would like to thank our program supervisors from the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services over the last year, Diana Lee on the adult side and Eva Back-Hebert on the children's side. And I want to thank Stuart for being here today as he takes on Diana's role over the next year. And really thank the ministry for their incredible partnership and support of our organization. I also want to thank our highly skilled board of directors who really provided a lot of support and guidance during those pandemic days and those challenging days. So I want to thank you for that. And Tom, I really appreciated your leadership as chair and your support of me over this year as well. So thank you. Transitions are very difficult for all of us. And I can only imagine the challenges that were faced by families and the people who live here now in the building as they move from being supported in group living to moving into a place like this and into the home of their own. It can be very stressful, and I know that both Anthony and Brendan, as they moved into their own apartment, we have the fathers of both of these men here this evening who are going to share their perspectives on what it was like moving from 1 year. Front row seats, guys, I know. So I want to introduce to you first John Badham. And John is the father of Anthony. And John moved into, Anthony moved in to his own apartment in July of 2021. And John was a board member from 2006 to 2011 with our organization, and he and his wife Mavis provided incredible support to our organization. So John, if you wouldn't mind coming forward.
Wow, Kathy, that was quite the introduction. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me down there? Good, okay. When I was first approached by, I believe it was Angela, who called and said, would you be able and willing to share some of your experiences and the experiences of Anthony over this past year, or before this year actually, because the concerns really came when we met, first of all, with Sonia and Mary Ann, when they introduced us to the idea that they might move, or that our sons would be, should take advantage of moving towards more independence by moving into this new facility here. Well, I am of the old school type, okay? And if it's not, if everything's going fine, why try and move it to a different direction, okay? So I definitely put my little tentacles up there. At that time, Mavis also would join me in that, but and also our friends, the Huttons. But you know, one of the key things I have found. Let me say this: it's going great. Anthony is doing so well. So very often, I'll say to him, Anthony, would you rather move back into a group home setting? And he says in a great big voice, "Oh no!" In fact, I might illustrate that a little better, because the other day we were driving and Mavis said to me, she said, are we taking him home? And I said, well, darling, would you like to keep him for a couple of more weeks? And immediately he said, oh no, he said, I got paranoid. And I guess that's what it's like for some sons and daughters who live at home, maybe a little too long. But as parents, we don't see that. And we're so anxious for the best for them. And, you know, we think in terms, well, who's going to look after their meds now? Or their appointments? Or their... At the home where Anthony was, they had a tremendous program for keeping these guys looking good. Okay? Get rid of those big, and you know what? You guys are looking really great tonight, by the way. And I said to Anthony, you know, you must have found that equipment to do your running on, what have you. Because I think he's beginning to look better too. Although, I guess, is this the place where you keep all that stuff?
It is.
So, okay. So I can see that there could be some concerns there. It would be nice perhaps to have a, you know, a place where they can have more constant access on. Maybe that's something which could be worked at. And talking about being worked at, that's what I found out is that when I've spoken to Rachel or any of the others concerning concerns, immediately there has been from these type of staff, you know, meaningful engagement to think about the problem and see how they might address it. Mind you, it is a great problem. If you imagine these guys from, where are we? Anthony is 37, okay? And all of a sudden, he's into a situation whereby he's saying you can do more what you like. You don't have to do what the home mother says so much. And you look across the road and there's a subway across there. Well, what's going to happen? And as Rachel said, we can't keep our eyes on them all the time. But, you know, that is the problem. But, you know, to try and get these guys to be self-motivated with regards to health issues and such things, that's a challenge for the future. And as we mentioned, transitions, one of the inconveniences of COVID is that as parents, we have not been able to get together to combine the concerns that we had and to meet with staff to talk about it in those ways. And this, I hope, is a concern which can be addressed going on, because tonight is a night for celebration. We had Anthony for 18 years, in fact. The agency, Pcl Anthony for another 18 years. And this is the new facility which they're promoting to help him towards more independence. And I do believe that more independence is also based upon Brennan and Doug assisting that process, making him fit. And all of a sudden he's coming home, he's watching baseball. Never watched baseball. Maybe soccer occasionally, but mainly in our household it was always Midsummer Murders, you know. So that was the accent, and that's why even now Anthony comes out occasionally with an English accent, and I mean, for goodness sake, he's been with us all that time, but wouldn't he have an English accent? But he went to England about 5 or 6 times. So he's had a good going over, besides going to BC and Florida and all those other places. So very much a part of our family. And now he's come into this place and has been here a year. A year which has been impeded because of COVID. That's the way I see it. We haven't had that opportunity to talk more freely with one another. But I was glad when I was asked to share a few words tonight, mainly because I want to applaud the staff and the way they continue to be a staff that caring. We've heard a lot about our Queen, and sure enough, she is a fantastic carer, or has been, okay? So we do have a good model there, but she's gone. You guys have got to keep going, being caring, because in our society today, as we know, it's very, very much needful to have people that are caring and not so anxious to look to their own needs, but rather the needs of others. Kathy, I think I've said enough. Okay.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate that and your thoughts and your experiences over the last few years. So appreciate your feedback. So we also have Doug Hutton here today, and Doug is the father of Brennan, who's sitting in the front row. And he also moved into Bridgeport at Lancaster July of 2021. And Doug was a board member from 2002 to 2007, and he also was a board chair for 2 years. So he and his wife Diana have been tremendous contributors to our organization over the years. And so Doug, come on up.
Yeah, I was just reflecting on the first screen that came up here. It said 33 years. Well, it was 34 years when Diana and I and our family moved to Waterloo. And shortly after that, we were introduced to PCL through some mutual friends that we had met in the city already, or in Kitchener or Waterloo. And time sure flies when you're having fun. But here we are 33 years later, or 34 years, I guess. Us, 34, you, 33. At any rate, Diana and I, and unfortunately Diana cannot be here this evening. She's having a little difficulty getting around these days, as we all do to some degree as we age. But Diana and I certainly appreciate the opportunity to share our experience on the transition from 24/7 to supported living to supported independent living, and maybe it should be called now positively supervised independent living, because I think they are in fact becoming more independent as they have worked through the last 2 years together. Doug and Brennan and Anthony, have shared a lot of experiences over the last years, hockey games, football games, whatever you're watching, parties, I guess, I hear. There, I hardly recognized Brennan. He got himself a new barber. So I had to be reintroduced to him. At any rate, it was the family concept that really attracted us to PCL in the first place. And Brennan's home on Pasture Trail, which was his second, I believe. The first one was over on West Heights. And at Pasture Trail, it was a very satisfying, trouble-free environment. In fact, we were probably becoming a little complacent, but Brennan and his colleagues thrived in that environment. It was a wonderful thing. Again, there was absolutely no load on our shoulders whatsoever. So then along came this suggestion that we are asked now to make a decision on Brennan living in a different place, someplace more independent. And we said, why? Why not success? Everything is running wonderfully. Why do we want to fix something that's not broken? But as it turned out, I think any change, of course, is disruptive, but it's probably was more disruptive for Diana and I than it was for Brennan in the end. Brendan was very excited about the opportunity to have his own home. And I think he's become more excited as time passes. Secretly, I think he maybe wanted to escape some of that close, tight supervision that he had at Pasture Trail. And I think he's really enjoying the freedom that he has now, along with his friends. So the physical move was pretty uneventful. But then came the learning curve, and I think there were a lot of adjustments to go through, and some of them maybe were a little painful. I'm not going to go into the details of those. They're not important because they're all gone. And the staff, many of the staff, of course, were new at that time, and Brennan and his colleagues were also inexperienced in this environment. And so it took some time to work out some problems that maybe weren't anticipated. There wasn't an opportunity to do a lot of training. And if I would say one thing, that was probably the most difficult part for us in seeing that. However, over the last year and a half, it's improved to the point that we hardly hear from Brendan anymore. In fact, we have to call him. Brendan, when are you going to call us again? So we find a year or 2 years later now that Brendan is really thriving in his new setting and is very proud to show off his new digs to his family and friends from outside the organization. He seems particularly pleased with his gardening assignment. Growing vegetables. Did you have some for dinner this evening, or is the harvest done now? Or?
Yeah, well, tomatoes have been growing, about to turn ready anytime soon.
Anytime soon, but they better hurry. Fall is coming. So he seems also to have accepted responsibility for a lot of the regular tasks of living, and he's looking after his apartment, or his, I'm not sure if we call them condos, but apartments, I guess is the thing, that he's looking after that well, I'm told. I haven't inspected it personally lately, but I understand that everything's going smoothly. So kind of in conclusion here, we feel the move's been a great success with a huge unexpected bonus. Brennan's two favorite pastimes or places are Tim Hortons and Subway. So thank you. It's been a pleasure.
So I thought it was fitting. Our agency was founded on families, and it was nice to hear from families this evening about their experiences of this transition, because albeit it is very difficult and challenging, as was shared, and we're really pleased with how well all of our folks here in the building have come along. So, and yes, I take tours through Brennan's apartment all the time, and it always looks shipshape. You do an awesome job. So. All right, I'll now hand the meeting over to Tom.
Thank you, Kathy. Yes, my name is Tom Hunter, and I have the privilege and joy of being chair of the PCL board. And I thought I would give you a short thumbnail sketch of what happened over the last year. It was another incredible year of resilience and accomplishment operationally for PCL. Our exceptional staff teams managed the COVID outbreaks remarkably well. There was no loss of service levels, and we were in compliance with provincial regulations. The board, I can assure you, assured that the employees who were responsible for this incredible service were compensated to the best we could under provincial legislation, which is Bill 124, that confines the ability of the board to reward its staff, but we did the best we could in the circumstances. Quality assurance is at the top of the list when it comes to the homes that our clients live in. The ministry's quality of assurance measures are strict, in particular when it comes to children's homes. And this year, our inspections were sterling. We only had a few minor non-compliances in our adult homes, and only one non-compliance in one of our children's homes, which is truly exceptional. It is only due to the amazing staff teams and our senior leadership staff. So they did a phenomenal job in terms of keeping us in accordance with the law. Our senior leadership team provided prudent financial management yet again with a balanced budget in this fiscal year. So they have, as always, managed the nickels and the dimes for the benefit of the dollars. The board continues to look to the future. Our board members were aging, so we sourced, recruited, and elected 4 new outstanding board members this year. And I can tell you, having served in other organizations, it's always difficult to find volunteers for charitable organizations. And we were blessed to find 4 highly qualified, passionate people for the mission of PCL. We have updated our governance policies to include diversity, equity, and inclusion, and expand our board matrix to make sure that people that we recruit have that diversity, equity, and inclusion policy and emphasis at the forefront of their mind, so we reflect the community that we are representing. And we've begun the process of reviewing our bylaws and are incorporating documents to be in compliance with the new Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act. You can't keep those lawyers down, they're always passing more legislation. We celebrated the completion of our Community Hub affordable housing project in partnership with Menno Homes and St. Paul's Lutheran Church. How do you like it? phenomenal space, as you have seen tonight, and the people we support have moved into their apartments, they're adjusting well, and I think they're enjoying their newfound independence. We look forward to phase 2 of this partnership, which the board is investigating right now, and hopefully we'll be able to accomplish phase 2 because there is obviously a continued need for affordable housing and office and program space. So on behalf of the board members, I would like to thank our Chief Executive, Kathy, here tonight, the senior leadership team, and the entire PCL staff. I have said this so many times, and I'll keep saying it. Our staff does angelic work.
Here, here.
And some of those angels, are here tonight, so thank them before you leave. I would also like to personally thank the board members, your passion for PCL's mission, and your personal commitment of time and the application of your experience and your expertise based on your skill set and your career have had a positive and lasting effect on PCL. So thank you very much. And finally, I think that at this point in time, Parents for Community Living is certainly a highly respected and recognized leader in the developmental services sector, but I think we can say as an organization that is well suited and well served to address the opportunities and the challenges that will inevitably lie ahead, hopefully not with another pandemic. So thank you for attending this evening. It's really important to our team that you be here and that we hear from you during the year about the challenges you're having or the suggestions you might have for the betterment of PCL. So thanks very much for being here tonight.
So yes, we want to recognize, and I would like if you could just stand if you're a current board member of the organization so that you can be recognized here tonight. So if our board members might please stand. Thank you. We do have 4 new members joining us this evening. Rose Johnson, who couldn't be here with us this evening. I think she's traveling right now. We have Dan Collings, who is here. So Dan, if you might stand. Thank you. And Jonathan Minnis. And Gary Howell. I'm sorry, Gary Bullitt. We also want to recognize 4 outgoing board members who were with our organization for the last few years. So we have Sheila Charters, who was with us for 3 years. Sheila, if you would like to come up. Can I give you a plaque? Thank you very much.
Oh, wait.
Thank you. We also have Fred Masters, who was with us on the board for 3 years as well. So come on up there. And we have 2 board members that have completed 2 6-year terms. Chris Pippy, if you wouldn't mind coming up. And John Collings. And then we also have, on the next slide, We also have our new slate of board members. So Tom is remaining as, obviously, as chair of our board. And we have Carrie Ann Bent, who is our vice chair. So Carrie Ann, Rebecca Smith as our secretary. And Linda Scott Campbell as our treasurer. So thank you very much for all of you and for the hard work that you do for the organization. As Tom said, we couldn't do this work without you and your oversight and your guidance and really working on following through with our strategic plan. So thank you all for your work. And now I'll pass it on to Brenda.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I would like to just start tonight to again recognize some of our exceptional and dedicated and resilient employees. It has been a really challenging year through the COVID-19 pandemic. The staffing crisis in the developmental service sector continues, and it is a challenge to find really qualified employees. However, we are lucky and fortunate to have about 227 employees right now, and 128 of them are in what we would consider full-time benefit positions. So we've been able to create some really benefit positions to offer to our employees. We have supported the hire of many newcomers to Canada over the past couple of years, and also supported them with their permanent residency status. So I'm happy to say that we have probably 3 employees that we have supported for permanent residency in Canada. Due to our expansion, we do have a lot more new employees than we have longer-term employees. So right now, about 51% of our employees are just over the 3-year mark. We have 7% of employees out of that 228 that have been here for 10 years or more, and a very small percentage of us at the 20-plus mark, so 4% of us. And I want to recognize 2 of those individuals tonight. 2 employees reaching the 20-year mark this year, and I'd like to first call up Ella May. Ella May Hawkins has been with us since June 2002. She has pretty much worked with, I would say, almost everybody, and in every home and location in our organization. Ella May has been outstanding, a dedicated and reliable employee for 20 years, and especially over the past year with the COVID-19 pandemic, Ella May volunteered to work in the COVID outbreak home, so she supported the teams that were in COVID outbreak. So Ella May, I would like to Next, I'd like to call up Tara Badham. Tara has been here with us since February 2002, so again, 20 years. She wrote down, she came, in order for us to appreciate her, because Tara has also worked in many different locations with many different people that we support. I believe started in the respite program, our very first little respite program, and has had many positions as well, so has been program supervisor. So she has really been a great example of our succession planning in our organization, with someone moving from a direct support role and into a program supervisor role. So Tara, I have a small token of appreciation for you as well. My last little bullet point on this slide was to speak to the maintenance position, but I'm actually going to leave that to Diana Darcy when she speaks, because she knows a lot more about what he does for the organization. So I'll move to the next slide. And over the past couple of years, we actually created some new roles within the organization as we grew. And one of those was the Manager of Technology and Operations, Diana, and she will speak of that later. But we were able to create what we have called the Senior DSP, the Senior Direct Support Professional role. And that role is a sort of a stepping stone from a position of direct support moving towards that of possibly a program supervisor. That senior role is in some of our larger locations. In fact, here at Bridgeport and Lancaster, we have 2 senior direct support professionals. They really help with some of the case management, so helping people with their life goal planning, helping them with their dreams. And then they also help out the program supervisors with some of their many roles around scheduling, just kind of the stuff that needs to get done on the fly. They're very helpful, and they also help with on-call when the program supervisors are on vacation. And that role, and I'm really happy to say that out of that, we have had someone in the role of a senior direct support professional move into a program supervisor position, and that was Anna Badham, who is now supervising at our Evelyn home. We have also, and I am thrilled in particular, to have been able to hire a human resources assistant with 227 employees. It's a lot of work. So Amber's here at the back. Amber actually used to be a program supervisor in our Evelyn home. She has been instrumental in helping me with recruitment, with interviewing, following up with references, all of the filing, all the pieces that take a lot of time, and in order for us to be able to focus on some really great projects for the future, and some training projects as well for the future. And I will just mention, and Terry might, but we also were able to hire a finance coordinator, which I'm sure he's very happy with as well in terms of helping him out. And just some of our, some of our programs, some of our internal programs, so our Pcl Ambassadors really are direct support professionals who have volunteered their time to really foster a culture of positivity and of wellness within our homes and for the people we support, as well as for their staff teams. So they really help out with the wellness themes that we do every month. They come up with some of the ideas, and they really encourage both the people we are supporting and their staff teams to get involved and participate in these activities. Our Pcl Mentors is another program that we started in order to build some really excellency to our staff. So these Pcl Mentors are experts in their role or hope to become experts in their role, and they are offering support and training and orientation to all of our new hires, as well as supporting anybody on their staff team who sort of has some questions, how do I do this? Where do I look for this? That type of thing. And we are providing them with a lot of training in leadership, in coaching, in mentoring, and all of, much more, person-centered planning, as well as what the organization is all about, and journey to belonging. So they're a really important role for our organization, and I'm happy to say with that as well, in terms of succession planning, we had a Pcl mentor, Kara Canning, who is now the program supervisor at the Monarch Home. So it's been great to see that these programs are creating that succession planning. Our diversity task force is again, another group of people who have volunteered their time. So both direct support professionals, program supervisors, and some of us management. And really we take on that extra responsibility in relation to the DEI strategy. So they've helped to shape our logic model and provide insight to matters related to DEI, including our training needs and our policy revisions. So that's pretty awesome. And finally, I will just speak to our partnerships just briefly. We partner with colleges and universities for student placements, both paid and unpaid. Wilfrid Laurier, University of Waterloo, Conestoga College, several programs from Conestoga College, as well as some of the private colleges, Trios, Westerveld too. So we have DSWs, BSWs, SSWs, all sorts of students that come. And it's a win-win situation. They learn from us, we learn from them, and it's an excellent platform in terms of getting some really well-trained employees for the future. And one organization we did a partnership specifically to COVID was the Academy of Learning. Those students were PSW students. They were newcomers to Canada, and they provided some extra help during our COVID outbreak situations in the homes. So that was an excellent partnership there as well. For myself, I'm a co-chair of the Central Region Partnership on Aging and Developmental Disabilities. I've been that for 2 years now. And what we are is a cross-sectoral committee. So health, long-term care, the Alzheimer's Society, mental health, and what we do is we really focus on the changing needs as people age to ensure that there is a smooth transition for supports as people age. So it's a really excellent committee, provides really great training. I also am on the Developmental Services Workforce Initiative for the modernization of the core competencies, which will be rolling out in October, and I am now a member of the Provincial HR Network too. So provincially, we'll be looking at some strategies for recruitment and retention in the sector. And that's all.
Thank you, Brenda, and I meant to say that Brenda is celebrating 24 years with the organization.
Oh, when I started getting LinkedIn messages, 24.
And now we'll have Sonia, our services director, come up. Sonia's doing double duty in the absence of Marianne, who's on vacation in the UK. So Sonia's going to come up, and she's celebrating 21 years with the organization.
So the people that we support are slowly returning back to the activities, the jobs, and the placements that they enjoyed prior to COVID. There have been a lot of returns to sports, group activities, which everyone has approached with great enthusiasm. We continue to work diligently with the people we support in making sure that they are all getting vaccinated against COVID-19. We have partnered with Shoppers Drug Mart who continues to offer the 4th dose booster. The Connectors Group started in the spring of 2022. The Connectors Group are a group of people, along with staff, that plan activities and events with the people we support and complete what they would like, or participate in activities in which they have chosen to do. They started a biking group and decided on events such as Disney on Ice, Mamma Mia, just to name a few of them. They also had a barbecue to kick off the summer, and they've also had picnics for over the summer in July and August. They meet monthly and have plenty of ideas on what they would like to do and organize for future community events. In terms of growing, we have new additions in our children's home. We welcome Keely into our Malabar home in December, and Joshua into our Casey home, as well as 2 young men, Derek and Cameron, into our Malabar home. For respite, we continue to be the go-to agency across the Tri-Cities. Currently, we offered week stay respites at our children's program, and we're just opening up respite for our adult program. Second Harvest is Second Harvest Food Rescue is a company we've partnered with to rescue food from 19 local restaurants and bakeries across the Tri-Cities. In the past 12 months, we've rescued over $21,000 meals, and that values over $68,000. We've distributed the food rescue throughout our homes and also to tenants in the apartments as well. So, update at Bridgeport and Lancaster. Since moving in, we've enjoyed, the people here have enjoyed exploring the communities and discovering the local amenities and trails. There have been opportunities for people supported to build relationships with other tenants and learning new skills on becoming independent. Right, Dougie? Okay. Some of the places where you guys have went is the Center and the Square, St. Jacobs, going to plays, sporting events, wrestling events, and the list goes on.
Move on.
Yeah. We've also started cooking classes, which is done in our beautiful community kitchen here. Hopefully everyone had the opportunity to have a look at it. And we look forward to opening it up to the community in the coming months. Day options have changed since COVID, and PCL continues to offer individualized supports for people attending. Small groups have given us the opportunity to look at person-centered approaches in what we offer in our day supports. I think I'm done. That's all.
Next, I'll introduce Diana, our IT and Operations Manager, to come forward and share her report.
Hello, everyone. So I guess I'll start with the new roles that we've introduced, which is Firos and myself. So our job is essentially to support. Firos is the man of many hats. He is our kind of handyman, so it saves us a ton of time and money in that he is able to do a lot of the small repairs, you know, those toilets that you might have to call a plumber in for, but if you're a little handy, you could probably fix. Lots of, you know, minor repairs in the homes he's able to do, and any of the kind of more medium-sized tasks he's able to bring in a plumber for things that are outside of his area of expertise. He also helps us through some of our bigger projects in helping us make sure that we're not missing any items with that. My job, and Firos kind of does some of this as well, has been more of the IT side of things, as well as keeping things organized with Firos, with Share Vision, which we introduced in, I guess when we started, basically when this building opened. We quickly got things off the ground a little quicker than was initially intended, because it made more sense to start with our online bookkeeping and kind of the way we do our log notes here right away. Whereas we kind of intended initially to do that a little closer to the fall, but we made it work. So I think that the program here was amazing. They gave us a ton of feedback. They were our pilot project, whether they liked it or not. So thank you to those guys for their patience, because it was a learning curve for me too. So we have now implemented Share Vision across all of our homes. All of the homes are using them. We are no longer using any logbooks. Everything is done online. And we're finally reaching the point where we are, you know, seeing some of the fruits of our labors, and that we can pull some data and save time. So the whole point of Share Vision was to, you know, make things more easier to use and to save time, and so that we could spend more time with the people supported. And we're finally getting there. We can now pull reports for families and doctors very quickly at a click of a few buttons. And the supervisors are getting really good at finding, oh, I need this, and this data, you know, once a month for this person's doctor, and we can just grab it. So that's saving a ton of time that supervisors would have had to spend in front of a computer pulling handwritten charts that sometimes hieroglyphics would probably be easier to read than some of our staff's chicken scratch. So it has saved a ton of time that way and a ton of heartache. So that's been great. We are also in the process of implementing CIRA, which is the Canadian Internet Regulatory Authority software, which does provide us with some cyber awareness training. So the whole purpose is to minimize risk to the agency. One of the delightful benefits of COVID is all this super fun cyber attacks and phishing scams. I don't think I've ever had so many over email, text. Tara's hiding her face because one keeps coming from her fake old email. So we are working with CIRA, and with this new software, we can create, so we had one at one point, Kathy Lovies was emailing people telling them they needed her phone number so she could call them right away. And it was obviously a phishing scam. So we are able to create emails that look similar to what's happening in the community and see how staff are behaving, so we can provide additional training to those staff and minimize the risk to the agency as much as possible. So this software pulls all of that data for us and sends out all of these emails to collect that kind of data and flag if there's some staff who need more training or specific locations that maybe need additional training to help us point our training and resources in the right direction. Minor capital, we have completed several ministry-funded improvements, and we are wrapping up the last one or two this month to finish off the ones that we have from last year. We've recently submitted 15 new ones, I think it was, for minor capital repairs for the coming year. And we also have some renovations that are currently underway, including the St. Charles kitchen, and many, many more, so that we are continuing to work on.
And last but certainly not least, Terry, we have our Finance and Operations Director to provide a financial report for the evening.
Good evening. Have you ever noticed that there's a trend in not-for-profit organization AGMs They generally put the finance section at the end. I don't know if that's a compliment or what, but we'll go with the compliment side. So finance has had a very busy year. We implemented a new accounting system called Sage 300. It allows us to take advantage of system integrations, for example, between our payroll provider as well as the Passport One system for passport funding. We also interface between our accounting system and our bank. We transitioned to a new banking platform called Cash Management Online, or CMO, and that allows us to make payments electronically as well as process deposits electronically. So we're handling far fewer checks, both in and out, than we did last year, which is great. In terms of financial performance, I keep this a very high level. There's some information within your annual report. But I should mention that our financial results are presented on what is referred to as ASNPO, which stands for Accounting Standard for Not-for-Profit Organizations. I've never been able to find a layman's definition of this, but basically the standard tries to match the flow of income with the flow of expenses. For example, if a purchase is made for a significant item, such as a new property, you would recognize the cost of that over the period of time that you are holding the property, and we call that as amortization expenses. You recognize that, and then if we received for funding related to that big expenditure, we recognize that revenue over time as well, so that we match those two, and that's called amortization of deferred contributions. So what you get, the ministry, I should say, requires that agencies report on what they call a modified accrual basis, which for the most part is a cash basis of accounting. So you report what you get on a cash basis, and you report what you spend on a cash basis. So when you're looking at the two different types of reports, you're going to get differences in the reporting as you get to that bottom line. But what's important is that from a ministry perspective, PCL was able to manage the ministry's budget to a break-even position. So that's a goal we have with regard to our ministry. The idea is that whatever you were funded, you actually spent. We came in at it was a change this year. So it wasn't even a dollar; it was a change, which was remarkable, I thought. So this was managed with a 22% increase in government subsidies and the increase in costs that go along with that program increase. PCL did this while managing the pandemic expenditures with approximately $1.09 million in support from the government towards those pandemic expenditures. This includes the temporary wage enhancement of $3 an hour for our PSW staff. So the accounting method of ASNPO also impacts the fund development report in that some funding dollars are deferred to a future period along with the capital project expense. So on a financial report basis that we give versus what the financial or the funding development would look at, they would be looking at the money that was collected, and we're looking at the money that you were allowed to report on that standard. So you'll see differences there. We also worked with our new auditors, Graham Matthews, and Mike Arndt, the partner on our file, is here with us tonight. Right? I think we managed to deliver a stress-free year-end audit with a clean opinion on our financial statements. I'm paraphrasing, but they found our financial statements present fairly in all material respects PCL's financial position and performance. So that goes on to the financial statements that get produced, the official financial statements. So I am also personally continuing in my role as a member of what's called the OBRC, which stands for Oasis Business Resource Committee. Our role is to focus our attention on business issues that will assist member agencies within Oasis and to provide a consistent voice to ministry to effect uniform and consistent change in terms of business policies and practices. I've been on the committee for since 2019. I'm allowed a 6-year term, so I got a couple more years I can continue on that. But it's been very enlightening to be able to connect with different development service organizations, finance and IT departments to talk things through. We have a conference coming up early November, so that'll be exciting as well. So that's it for my report. Thank you very much.
So I do want to open it up for some questions if anybody might have them, but I do want to take this moment to show appreciation for Angela for all of the work that she's done this evening to pull our night together. It takes a lot of organization and effort, and I want to thank Michelle and the staff here who did the tours, and Tracy and Emily who did our tours this evening along with Lala and Brennan. So I want to thank all of you for the work that you did to make this evening a success. And if you look on our website, you'll see all of the amazing videos that Angela has been responsible for and has done an awful lot of work and manages also our social media sites, and she does an awful lot of work to promote the organization. So I thank her for that. Thank you, Angela. I just want to open it up for questions if anybody has any questions before we wrap up this evening.
You have one. Nowhere in there here's the number of clients or residents that are now served full-time permanent residents.
That's a really good question. I think we're at 60 now, including children and adults.
And how many days of respite are provided for adults?
We've had very limited opportunity to provide respite this year due to COVID, and the recommendation by public health to provide, if we do provide respite, longer stays as opposed to short stays. So we've been kind of confined within that. As you may also recall, we're the go-to agency for crisis placements in the region, and so we've had over the course of the year certainly children's beds blocked, and we currently have 2 children's beds blocked with 2 individuals that we're looking at planning for into the future. And also additional and adults as well. But compounding that is the issue of staffing, retention, and recruitment that has kept us from being able to have a full contingency of staff to offer that respite that is so needed in our community. It's the one thing that we really do want to be able to move forward with in the coming year. But it does take staff, it takes bodies, and we just don't have a full contingency at this point. So that is our goal, and that's why Brenda's been so working so hard with the provincial network and OASIS with regard to the recruitment and retention that the province is dealing with as a whole with all agencies. So, good question. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you for your attention this evening, and for the crowd that's come out tonight, it's been a pleasure to see you all again in person, and please take a plate of food with you, because there wasn't much taken, and we want to be able to send that off with you this evening, so thank you very much.